Vanakkam. Hello friends. In story time at Kadambavanam, today we will see the story of Amarneedhi Nayanar, one of the 63 Nayanmars. In the Chola country, made fertile by the river Kaveri, the old city of Palayarai was home to our Nayanar known as Amarneedhiyar. Born into a very wealthy merchant family, Amarneedhiyar traded in gold and precious stones and fine textiles, sending them to places all around, indicating that he was engaged in the trade of importing and exporting these materials. And he thought that the reason why he was bestowed with such wealth was to serve Sivanadiyars, the holy mendicants who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. So thinking, he offered food and clothing to all the Sivanadiyars who came to him. He gave them blankets to cover themselves and two pieces of cloth known as the keel and the kovanam. The keel indicating a piece of cloth worn around the hip, and the kovanam, the term used to denote the loin cloth which is tied upon this piece of cloth. There was a city called Nallur next to his town of Palayarai, where there was a Sivan temple attracting a large number of devotees. With his wealth, Amarneedhiyar built a very big choultry there, and one day during festive season went there with his wife and his relatives. While he was there, the Lord decided to test the devotion of Amarneedhiyar. Lord Shiva took the form of a mendicant, smearing his body with the holy ash and wearing a keel and a loin cloth. It was sacrilegious for brahmacharis like him to even touch a piece of silk thread that was normally used in those days to wear the aringan or the keel around the hips. So he wore a keel made of the dharbai pul or the holy grass, and from that he wore his loin cloth, and he came to the choultry at Nallar and met Amarneedhiyar and mentioned that he had heard of Amarneedhiyar's generosity from far and wide, of how he bestowed upon the mendicants fresh pieces of loin cloth with the keel. Saying so, Amarneedhiyar received him with great happiness and asked him to partake of the food there. The mendicant said that he will go and bathe in the Kaveri river and come back and have food. Since it was about to rain, the mendicant then asked Amarneedhiyar, would he be willing to keep safely one of the two pieces of loin cloths that he was carrying. He had a staff with him, at the end of which he had tied two loin cloths, a holy ash bag, and some holy grass. From that, he took one loin cloth and gave it to Amarneedhiyar for safekeeping and went to the river to have his bath. In a little while, he came back. It was raining heavily, and the mendicant was totally drenched. So, coming back, he went straight to Amarneedhiyar and said, please bring the dried piece of clothing. I will need it now. Amarneedhiyar got up and went inside. In his Periyapuranam, Sekilar describes the mischievous lord with a very beautiful term, Kovanakkalvar, one who stole the loincloth, indicating how the Lord himself had indulged in hiding the loincloth. So Amarneedhiyar went inside, didn't find the piece of loincloth anywhere, and so he took a fresh piece of cloth that he had, and with a lot of trepidation came out with his wife and relatives in tow and fell at the feet of the mendicant and offered the new cloth, saying that he had indeed lost the loincloth that the mendicant had given for safekeeping. The mendicant became furious and he said, I am not willing to believe this. It is not as if I gave it to your safe custody weeks ago. I just gave it a short while back. How could you lose it by the time I just went to the river and got back? No, I'm sure you have stolen it and you are lying to me. So saying, he piled a lot of angry words on Amarneedhi, putting Amarneedhi to a lot of shame. So the next minute, Amarneedhi brought a platter full of gold and precious stones and offered it to the mendicant. The mendicant said, "What use do I have for all this?" Not knowing what to do, Amarneedhi again prostrated at the mendicant's feet and asked for a solution. At this, Lord Shiva, of course dressed as the mendicant, said, "Okay, let us do one thing. I will give you the other piece of loin cloth that I have. You can keep it on your scales." As a merchant, he had a huge scale. So you can keep it on one of the scales and balance it with whatever you're going to put on the other scale and offer it to me. So saying, he took the wet loincloth from his staff and put it on one of the scales. Amarneedhi was overjoyed and relieved, and at once he placed the new piece of loincloth that he had brought on the other scale of the balance. But much to his surprise, the scale that was having his loincloth stayed up, while that of the mendicants was staying low. So then he added more number of loincloths, but the scale just remained up, and soon there was a huge bundle of loincloths on the scale. Now, not knowing what to do, Amarneedhi started adding all sorts of precious metal onto the scale with rubies and diamonds and gold. And much to his surprise and for the consternation of everyone around, the more wealth he added, his part of the scale went up while the mendicant scale kept going lower. Soon, all the movable properties in the choldry were brought and piled onto the scale, and still the scale wouldn't come down. Now, not knowing what to do, Amarneedhi suddenly struck on an idea and asked the mendicant's permission for him to get onto the scale together with his wife and son. The mendicant laughed and said, "Okay, try it." At which Amarneedhi, together with his wife and son, got onto the scale. Lo and behold, the scale came down and balanced the Lord's loincloth. The next moment, the mendicant disappeared, and there stood Lord Shiva with his consort Umadevi on his resplendent mount, the Nandi, and blessed Amarneedhi and his family, and said that he was very pleased with Amarneedhi's sincerity and devotion. The next minute, the scale on which Amarneedhi stood with his wife and son turned into a Pushpa Vimanam, a vehicle used to carry one to the heavens, and it proceeded towards the heavens. Thus, Amarneedhi and his wife and child were given a permanent place next to our Lord in the heavens. This is the story of Amarneedhi, with which the next canto of Thillevar Sarukam ends, and the next time we will see a story from the Ilai Malinda Sarukam. Vanakkam.